Hi, this is Alan Shea, and we want to thank you so much for joining us today on Our Society TV. And I have one of the students who was an amazing young man asking some important, imperative questions of education and, can I say, creativity.
Well, I guess you can.
I can. All right. So why don't you share with them your name, what year you are, and how are you enjoying your, should I say, matriculation here at IU?
Okay. I am Austin Clark. I'm a senior going into my senior year, and really what's my story, it's kind of just unfolded where I came here, and it was kind of serendipitous, and I kind of I studied photography and art history, fell into it. I'm lucky to have been here for this, to have met people like Barbara who helped put this on, and all of the people that were here, and my photography professors as well, have really molded me into this person. But time to graduate.
Wow. Well, you know, one of the beautiful things, and I must congratulate you, that plays into today's experience is you saw a lot of information, creativity, and, you know, had you been at the first one, you would have seen a lot of the academian perspective that came in to develop the character and the subject matter and things of that nature. So why don't you share with the viewers, because you are such a man and student who have the background of photography and media, I think this is pretty much up your alley. So I think you can really share with the viewers a solid perspective, you know, because you know what needs to look good, and you know what a good picture will do for yourself, for your client, for your fans, everything that your service would be needed for. So for your first $10 million, okay, as a writer, how would you write this opera to show to the viewers?
Well, $10 million could do a lot. I can't speak to as how I would write the opera, because I have only seen a few operas, but the conversations of what languages it would be in, because I think it's imperative that it happens in multiple languages to really tell the story. The musicality of it as well, what percussion instruments are being used, how can you incorporate other perspectives other than this classical Eurocentric perspective of music and musicality, just kind of questioning what music can be, or what anything can be when you have a wider perspective or a wider pool of what you're pulling from. So that takes resources, knowing that you can't do it all in yourself. You're not, no one person is a profession of everything. So that money could help bring in the panel of people that were sitting here to get the resources to make the opera what it should be. But that's kind of where I would start, is community and getting the community together, and to be able to pay them, because this takes their time away from them. They need to be compensated for that. That's a good start. But
all right, I like he keeps very diplomatic about it, so we kind of like that. So I'm gonna go to the next question. So as the actor who would be at a $25 million contract here, why don't you share with the viewers what genre of opera performance would you like to see as the actor to carry out the script?
What genre would I like to see as the actor to carry out the script? Well, this is naive of me. I understood opera as as a genre, or not necessarily as a genre, but as a very specific method for musicality. So I think it would really come down to the actors and the costuming and the stage. There's an opera that I actually did see, so I will talk about it. The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. it was the Metropolitan Opera that performed here in Bloomington. And I can even, remember that name because of how impactful the stage design was. So that's less about the genre, but more about the lasting impression that I think is needed for opera to make it accessible for a lot of people. Because let's be real, how many people like us are going to see operas? So I would say how you can make it marketable to people outside of this Eurocentric academic canon of what we tend to see in operas, while also still holding it true to what opera is, because opera can be so many things, so why can't it be inclusive?
Well, you heard what some of the panel, the range that they went from. Right. So that's why I was asking you this. Now, this is you as a writer and you as the actor now, so you can create it however you want and make the projection of the subject matter, the person who the opera is written about. All of this comes from you. So this is what we want to make sure the viewers understand. You are sharing with the viewers what would be your creation and what do you think would garner you getting your 10 million as a writer, you getting your 25 million as the actor to carry out the written script that you wrote. So that's why this is laid out this way. Mm-hmm. So when they hear your answers, they're going to hear from somebody who is speaking from their perspective, their thought process after hearing all the information, because everybody's not going to hear this, what we discussed today. They're going to see it, out there and say, well, where did this come from? Why would they write this? It's going to be a lot of thoughts. So you have the opportunity to share because you've heard a lot of good information. You heard a lot of intelligent people give their perspective. And now you can say, well, hey, based on everything I heard today, this is where I would go with it, especially if I'm going to get 10 million as a writer, 25 million as the actor in it. Mm-hmm. So you would still pretty much stay what you suggested?
Well, I mean, I would. I mean, I can elaborate on when I mean inclusive and when I said how many people like us go to see an opera. It takes people like us performing in operas to want us to go and see an opera. Once again, that's with that money, that's something that you can do. There are Black opera singers out there. There are people classically trained in these instruments, voice being one of them, that's what I feel like if I'm in an opera that I'm writing an opera that caters to more than just the Eurocentric perspective on, or the Eurocentric take on an opera, where we live in a contemporary age, we live in a global age. Why can't that represent global culture, and why can't it represent different skin colors?
Okay, and you've touched upon some very interesting perspective, especially listening to the panel say they don't know what his thoughts, his voice, his personality, what his challenges were to make him want to be who he was, and all this. They have a chance to be the creators. And the creators have to be very creative to tell the story, to capture the audience, both as the actors in it, and then as the storytellers to engage the audience, especially in today's climate, which you are part of that generation as well as being a photographer. Is the retention shorter or longer?
Well, people's attention span is definitely shorter. Okay. So that means retention is also shorter.
The question I was asking you is if the attention span and everything is getting shorter, how does that play into being able to be an effective storyteller, especially with a opera in a subject matter that can get pretty extensive in the storytelling line, okay?
Right.
How much are you going to be able to keep the viewer's attention?
A good story keeps the viewer's attention. Not there aren't methods. I think that, yeah, there are. I guess there are methods that you could play into to hold attention, but it starts with the story and the way that the story is written. So that means, how do you imagine this story in a way that entertains people while keeping it true to the history of what happened. Like I said, it's an opera about a slave revolt. You need people of color for that. You need other perspectives in this, and that in itself is going to keep people or hold people to it, because what opera have you seen that has majority of the cast people of color?
Okay. And I like how he's thinking here, but here's his $100 million question. Okay. If he wants $100 million, okay, what would be the targeted market that you would want to go after, and what would be the age group?
I think it's a story for everybody. Yes, I guess that's a diplomatic answer, but it's because this is the doing of old people in the contemporary world that now young people like me are living in. This isn't just it's history. It's history on a broad level. It's not Black history. It's not colonial history. It's the history that we live in. So there's not a specific market that I think would fit best. Like I said, a compelling story is a compelling story, and people should want to see it for that. And especially this story that isn't as spoken about. Why market it to specific people? You want a broad sense of marketing to really spread the awareness. But that's where my head is at right now. Well, so do I get the 100 million?
Well, we haven't finished yet. I'm still waiting for you to give me an age group, if that is what you feel that could be most effective in you getting your $100 million.
The age group would be. I don't think it could be narrowed down to a specific age group. I just don't think it could be. When you look at people that are going to the operas, that is an older crowd of people automatically, one. So obviously, if you, in looking at a marketing purposes, or for marketing purposes, perhaps you would want to market it to a younger people so that you get the broader turnout. But everybody needs to see this story. Like I said, it's the doing of colonialism happened not because of people not because of people my age, or we're living in these histories that have unfolded for us by somebody's doing, of the older generation. So I guess marketing it to younger people so that you get the younger people into the opera house, but that way it's a broader spectrum of who's just seeing the opera.
Okay, well, he was pretty diplomatic about that answer, and the reason why I structured these questions like this is because we must assess the business side of it, because you're in business, and if you want your $100 million, you've got to know how to get to it, and if the producers and the writers and the actors and everybody who wants to make this a success, we have to do our due diligence now, especially when you're dealing with a project that is Black-based, because we know what kind of society we live in. We know what kind of climate we're going through right now. All of those things are going to impact the end product. And if you were to, and I'm going to ask you this question because you are someone who's in the arena of marketing, being in tune with it as a photographer, and if you're going to get into that as a real livelihood, either independent or working for somebody, at the end of the day, you've got to be able to produce revenue. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you this question, and then we'll close out, because I like what this young man could bring to the table, or raise awareness to the team of producers and writers that's going to put together this project. If I were to ask you who would be the biggest, let's say, entertainment promoter that you know of, can you give me one that you know of?
Entertainment promoter.
Right. So I'll
In
give
terms
you
of
anything that you know of that you connect with, or that you identify with. It could be Warner Brothers. It could be Disney. It could be Rolling Loud. It could
I would
be
say-
Chichilla. You ever heard of those?
I would say A24 is the big one. That is the independent film company. That's what's been striking me most with what's been coming out.
Okay.
In telling these stories.
Okay. So using that company, I don't know it myself, but you chose it. Why did you choose it? And what kind of value do you think it would bring?
Bring to the opera? Or?
No, what kind of value does it bring? I don't know anything about
Okay,
it. So
what does
share
it
the
bring?
revenue stream that
Yeah.
comes, or why you chose that.
I chose that because they sign on films that are telling the stories in ways that people aren't. And so it is an independent film house. So that means that they have the luxury to invest in these movies. Sing Sing is one of them. Sing Sing is a movie that just came out by A24. And it tells a story of an incarcerated man. I haven't seen it, so I can't say too much more about it. But these are things that I feel like people are really looking forward to hear. Or these are stories that people want to hear and are looking forward to hearing. And they actually do pretty well. For it to be an independent film company, they just started. They're less than, I want to say, 2 decades around. They've been in the film industry for about 2 decades, and continuously produce some of the most interesting movies of our time, without having the budget of Warner Brothers or without having the budget of Sony or Disney. Okay. And so, because as much as, yes, revenue and money is important, like you mentioned, but it doesn't take a Warner Brothers budget to be able to put on a good, impactful anything. It doesn't.
We're going to keep this man by our side so we can get our project. So before I let you go, why don't you share with the viewers, if you like, your IG so they can follow your history, be more in tune, and certainly see the value of education that come out of a young man like yourself from IU.
My Instagram is Tins Type. It's like I'll just spell it out, T1NS. TYPE, riffing off of a tin type or photograph. I'm a photo nerd. Or you could look at my website, austinjamesclark.com.
You guys heard it for yourself. This is Alan Shea signing out for tonight from Indiana University with one of his astute and senior, ready to get busy in the real world. Yeah. I want to just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. It's a wrap. So what